That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, let's go through. Let's talk about some buy low running backs here. We've been crushing these videos. Like, I swear to God, every time we make a buy low running back video the next week, those guys are blowing up. Really excited to dive into these players. We're going to be trying to identify players that are coming back from injury, guys that maybe the workload didn't necessarily show up with their overall fantasy production at the end of the day. But we know that if you're just looking at fantasy points at the end of the week, while yes, that's what wins matchups, that's not what's necessarily predictive of future fantasy points. And instead, we need to be focusing in on the underlying opportunity with the talent level we know these running backs are, try to combine that for future projections. So we're going to see where, maybe the past points haven't lined up with the future projections, and we could try to get a discount on some of these running backs. But of course, before we do that, you know exactly what we have to do. We have to give away some Fantasy Flock Network hats. If you have not gotten a Fantasy Flock Network hat yet, I kind of feel bad for you. No, we are not selling them. We're just giving them away for free for the people who are subscribed to the channel. And every time you drop a like on a video, leave a comment down there at the same time, you get entered in to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. It doesn't matter what the comment is. Our first one coming out from Mike G, who says, "Much love, big dog. I have with your swag. Heavy, keep doing your thing." Thank you so much, my friend. Probably sounded like an idiot saying that. But anyway, our next comment coming out from Johnny, who says, "I had a close win this weekend." Hell yes, my man. Saying thanks for all the help and hope you have a great birthday. No, thank you, my friend. And yeah, just go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. Also, we're making multiple videos every single day, live streaming every single night. So make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to come out to those live streams. And yeah, if you win a Fantasy Flock Network hat, all you have to do is make sure you go through and send me an email with the description in the video and just tell me your physical address so I can get that out to you ASAP. And yeah, let's go. Let's start talking about some of these buy low running backs. Let's start it off with someone that isn't a buy low running back, but I think that he is just such an intriguing trade target. Let's go Darrell Henderson here. And now with Darrell Henderson, this is a running back that I understand. He had a great week 5. And this is someone that if you're looking at the fantasy points per game so far this season, you're not necessarily buying him that low. So far this year in week 1, 15 points. Week 2, 17 points. Week 4, 17. Week 5, 17 points. He's been so consistent with this production. He's a low-end running back 1, high-end running back 2, week in and week out. But in week 5, if you're looking at the workload in this backfield, I think people are a little bit skewed on what they may be able to expect going forward, based on the fact that Henderson actually missed some of this game with an injury where he was in and out. You have to look at the overall volume of this backfield to understand what we may be able to project for Darrell Henderson going forward. Because in week 5, yes, he had 17 carries, 82 rushing yards. He had a rushing touchdown. He had a reception, 17 receiving yards to go along with it, which is fantastic. But Thomas, please throw up the game log right here with also Sony Michel combined. Because if you're going over to Sony Michel, keep in mind, this is a running back that's not going to have a weekly role. If you go back to week 4, whenever Darrell Henderson was fully healthy in this offense, Sony Michel wasn't on the field at all here. Really, the only reason Sony Michel got this kind of volume was because Henderson did have to leave for a small duration with an injury. Where Sony Michel came out, he saw 11 carries out of this backfield. He also got another reception. So you're telling me this backfield is generating close to 30 touches every single week? And if we go back to week 4, Darrell Henderson played almost every single snap. Now, of course, he's not going to be Najee Harris. He's not going to be playing 100% of the snaps, but he will be playing 80 to 90%, which based on what we have seen across the entire NFL, a running back that's getting that kind of opportunity, a running back that's seeing that kind of volume, those running backs are almost extinct. Not to mention that the Los Angeles Rams, the entire offense looks unbelievably dynamic. This is a team that's been consistently moving the ball down the field with no issues. So I think the lead running back in this backfield is probably one of the most valuable spots you can be in fantasy football. And let's go through and let's pull up my rest of season rankings. Now, at the time of this recording, these are not updated on Patreon, but by the time this video gets posted, they will be. And at the time of the recording, we had Darrell Henderson as the running back 14. We have him directly ahead of Antonio Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, James Robinson, RIP, CEH. But anyway, we will be moving Darrell Henderson up. Right now, Taylor, Mixon, Chubb, Swift, they're all ahead of him. I think Henderson 100% has to be a top 12 running back going forward, just based on the offense, based on the opportunity that he has had. And one last thing, I know we're annoying when we focus in on this every single time we talk about a running back, but it is so important. What's the reason we weren't drafting Nick Chubb? What's the reason we weren't drafting Damian Harris this year? It's because those players that don't get usage in the receiving game, really, their upside is so damn capped. I mean, if we're going to go over and we're going to look at a running back that possibly sees 4 receptions out of the backfield, they also get an added on 30 receiving yards to go along with it. Well, even if they don't score a receiving touchdown, all of a sudden that's an additional 7 points added on to their stat line. 7 points is everything. 7 points is equivalent to an additional 70 rushing yards. That's why you see that it doesn't really matter if Damian Harris comes out. Damian Harris rushes for 100 yards. If he doesn't catch a ball out of the backfield, if he doesn't rack up any receiving yards, all of a sudden he had 10 fantasy points. All of a sudden he's a running back 3 in fantasy. Cool story, bro. That doesn't do anything for us with the actual fantasy points. Whereas Darrell Henderson, we have seen him so far come out and have a considerable workload in the receiving game in particular. Or if you're going back to week 4, Darrell Henderson had 6 targets out of this backfield, 5 receptions at the same time. You're going back to week 2 against the Indianapolis Colts. He actually had 5 targets out of the backfield. Very impressive that he can see this kind of usage in the receiving game. He's not going to be getting 6 targets every single week. Of course, that's not going to be the case. Darrell Henderson would probably be a top 5 running back, but still, if he could just average 4 targets out of the backfield, if he can get 3 receptions a game, that would take his play to a completely different level if we're assuming that he's going to come with an additional 20 receiving yards in that instance. So yeah, Darrell Henderson, I think you have to have him as a top 12 running back right now. I know you're not buying him that low. You're going to have to pay a hefty price, but I would love to trade Nick Chubb for Darrell Henderson and get a wide receiver upgrade at the same time. Now, our next running back is going to be a very expensive one. Our next 2, we're going to be talking about studs. Then we'll get to some cheaper players later on. But I know we're going to be talking about these guys a ton in the live streams every single night this week, so I have to put it out in an official video. Christian McCaffrey. Now, yes, with CMC, obviously, this is still a top 3 running back in fantasy. You are going to be paying a hefty price, but the reason we're calling Christian McCaffrey a trade target right now is this is the last week you will ever have the opportunity to trade for Christian McCaffrey at all. I mean, CMC, based on how he almost played in this game, I'd imagine that he is 100% good to go in week 6. And I know that it's hard to remember exactly who Christian McCaffrey is because in 2020 and in 2021, he didn't play that many games. I mean, in 2020, he played 3 games. In 2021, he's played 2 full games. So in the past 2 years, we've had 5 games from Christian McCaffrey. And that skewed the perception completely. I mean, you're looking at Christian McCaffrey and you're kind of going, okay, well, yeah, he's the running back 1, but people aren't necessarily contextualizing exactly how dominant Christian McCaffrey is and exactly how he is going to affect win rates in fantasy football. This is a player that back in 2019, when he played the entire year, he averaged 29.9 points per game. 29.9 points per game. Let me just let that sink in for everyone here. If you're looking at the next best running back in that season, it was Dalvin Cook with 21 points per game. You're telling me that essentially CMC with 30 points per game versus Dalvin Cook with 21. CMC had almost 10 points per game, more than the next best running back. And keep in mind, not everybody has Dalvin Cook. A lot of people, their running back 1, they're scoring 17, 16 points per game. So you're doubling the score of your opponent's running back 1 with Christian McCaffrey. Do you have any idea the effect that has? I mean, that's essentially you going, hey, we're going to just have our own running back 1, but let me have an extra wide receiver slot. Let me go through, let me play wide receiver 3 as well. You only get to play 2 wide receivers. I mean, that's the kind of advantage we're talking about with having Christian McCaffrey as your running back 1. And I know we haven't seen it in a while, but you go back to 2020, just last season, and in a very small sample, I mean, Christian McCaffrey played 3 games, and keep in mind, he was getting injured. He was kind of in and out of those games. He wasn't seeing his usual amount of snaps. He wasn't seeing his usual amount of touches. He averaged 30 points per game. So even with the new coaching staff, that wasn't going anywhere. And in 2021, this is someone that the workload was still there. In week 1, 21 carries, 9 targets. And I know he doesn't drop his 30 points per game. Trust me, I get it. But still a casual 187 total yards for Christian McCaffrey, just based on the workload that he is going to have, especially in the receiving game. And then in week 2, he comes out 24 carries, 6 targets. Oh my God, it was such a bad Christian McCaffrey game, only 134 total yards. Like, Can we live with that? Can we just accept the fact that Christian McCaffrey only got us 137 total? Yes, of course. I mean, the floor for Christian McCaffrey is higher than the ceiling on 90% of other running backs in fantasy football. This is someone that can break fantasy football. Right now, I mean, we have him as our number one player coming back from injury, number one player overall. If you have Dalvin Cook in a PPR format, go trade him for Christian McCaffrey. I know you're probably not going to get that done, but if you have Derrick Henry in a PPR format, go trade him for Christian McCaffrey. You have Austin Eckler in a PPR format, go trade him for Christian McCaffrey. If you have Aaron Jones, if you have Alvin Kamara, go trade them for Christian McCaffrey. If you can't get that done, I mean, if maybe you're running back one, someone like Nick Chubb, go package Nick Chubb with another player to get Christian McCaffrey. Do anything that you can right now to bring CMC in. And if you have Christian McCaffrey on your roster, I understand you're maybe worried slightly about injuries, but keep in mind, if you're centering your analysis around an injury history for a given player, 9 times out of 10, we have been proving this so much in fantasy football throughout the years. 9 times out of 10, you are going to be proven wrong. You cannot predict injuries. If someone's trying to do that, maybe it was Saquon Barkley who rolled his ankle this past week. We've been fighting a couple of those people in the comment section on the past few videos. Anybody can go out there and step on the opponent's shoe and roll their ankle. I mean, does Saquon Barkley really come at a higher risk than other players to do so? Even if you are assuming that CMC is at a higher injury risk, the reward is so damn high that the risk is worth it, even if you think it's there. Now, our next running back, very similar. Please just hear me out. Dalvin Cook. I know with Dalvin Cook, it's a running back that missed this past week, and Alexander Mattison showed yet again, like we said, as soon as Dalvin Cook was inactive, literally every single question that we got in the live stream, we said, Alexander Mattison, Alexander Mattison, Alexander Mattison. You play him everywhere just because knowing how this Minnesota Vikings offense operates, knowing how this offense is driven through the running game, the starting running back spot when it's going to be a bell cow player in Minnesota is unbelievably valuable. I mean, you're looking at Dalvin Cook. We only have 2 healthy weeks so far this season to judge his play, to judge his opportunity. In week 1, he had 20 carries out of this backfield. He had 7 targets at the same time. In week 2, he had 22 carries. He had 3 targets out of the backfield. And this is just in line with what we had this past season in 2020, where he had 21 carries a game, almost 4 targets a game. This is a running back that the workload's there. We just know every week he's playing. Like, imagine you have Alexander Mattison on your roster right now. Would you want Alexander Mattison every single week to be the starting running back for Minnesota? Of course. Well, that's not going to be the case because when Dalvin Cook is active, we have seen this time and time again. Trust me, I loved Alexander Mattison coming into the season because in spot starts in the past, 2 in particular, Alexander Mattison came out and he dominated just like he's done so far in 2021. And what happened when Dalvin Cook went back to that Minnesota Vikings team coming back from injury? Dalvin Cook got every single snap. Dalvin Cook got every single touch out of this backfield. I know that this backfield was split back in week 4, but Dalvin Cook clearly wasn't 100% healthy. That's why he missed this week yet again. So I think once Dalvin Cook does come back and he's 100%, you should not be expecting this to be a running back by committee. I love Alexander Mattison. I have Mattison on a considerable amount of teams, but it would be reckless to assume that Dalvin Cook is not going to see the usual workload that he has had since 2017. Alexander Mattison is not an addition to this roster in 2021. The coaching staff has known what they have with Alexander Mattison for a very long time now. It's just that Dalvin Cook is such a good running back that they choose to use Dalvin Cook as that workhorse. Dalvin Cook has dealt with injuries before, and they still go right back to him with that usual volume he gets. Okay, so now let's go to some cheaper options at the running back position because obviously not everybody's going to go trade for Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook. You're not going to have the ammo to. So let's give you some discounted players. And we'll start it off with an extreme discount right now. This is someone I had no idea what to expect with coming into this week. Elijah Mitchell. Now, Elijah Mitchell, I was saying, okay, well, anything's in the range of outcomes. It's in the range of outcomes that Elijah Mitchell comes in. He is the lead running back here. It's not even close. It's possible that this is a split backfield between him and Trey Sermon. That's honestly what I was kind of expecting. But I was also saying it's possible that Trey Sermon comes out and he sees 60% of the snaps in this offense. Well, I know Elijah Mitchell does not make the headlines just based on the fact that he didn't necessarily score that many points. Obviously, this offense had a very hard time moving the ball down the field with Trey Lance. And Trey Lance, I mean, he scored a decent amount of fantasy points on his own right, but it was because the rushing upside that Lance has. Lance crushed this team in the overall rushing volume and his overall carry. So if you're looking just at the box score, Elijah Mitchell isn't going to stand out. But Elijah Mitchell, okay, keep in mind, there were 46 potential snaps played for the running backs in San Francisco this week. 46 potential snaps. Elijah Mitchell played 44 of them. He had 9 out of 10 carries from the running back position out of this backfield. He had every target out of the backfield for this running back room. Elijah Mitchell has shown that he is exactly who he was back in week 1. Now I'm going to say do not trade for him right now. It sounds super dumb, but with these players that are going into bye, with these players that are going to miss a week due to injury, you never trade for them. Then you just trade for them right before they're coming back, because the longer they're not scoring points, even though it's completely understandable when you're on a bye week, fantasy football managers are stupid. I mean, you're just going to have their value continue to slide down just slightly. So Elijah Mitchell, I'm not trading for him this week, but definitely want to be putting him on the radar. Go put him on your watch list. Set a reminder on your phone. That way, after we get through with week 6, and then you're going to have San Francisco coming back in week 7, most likely with Jimmy Garoppolo as the starting quarterback here. Trust me, I love Trey Lance. Y'all know nobody likes Trey Lance more than I do, and I'm very excited with what we're going to have going forward for him with our dynasty rosters based on the rushing upside that we saw from him back in week 5. I think that it's probably going to be Jimmy Garoppolo's job, just knowing that this 49ers offense definitely failed with Trey Lance in there, and at the same time, I mean, this is an offense that's looking to compete right away. I mean, they're not necessarily a long-term build type team. We know this is a team that was in the Super Bowl back in 2019. It's a team that the defense has been fantastic. They were able to just, I don't want to say shut down the Arizona Cardinals, but definitely give the Cardinals a tougher time than any other team they've played so far this year. So Elijah Mitchell, I think this is a running back that probably is going to be seeing an increase in the amount of targets he's getting out of the backfield. If we're going to get Jimmy Garoppolo coming in here, Trey Lance is going to be vulturing any of those touchdowns away at the goal line. So yeah, I think Mitchell, bell cow running back, one of the better offenses in the NFL. We're going to have to go get him. Hope that George Kittle comes back soon. That way we get more red zone trips for this offense and more first downs. Now our next running back here will be Josh Jacobs. Jacobs has been very promising over the past 2 weeks coming back from injury. This is a running back that in week 4, he had 13 carries out of the backfield. Not that many fantasy points, but what you love to see is 4 receptions out of the backfield for Josh Jacobs. Because we've already discussed this at length, that Jacobs was a player that I was fine drafting in the 5th round of underdog drafts this season, but he was falling consistently to the 5th round in a 12-team format. Sometimes you saw him falling to the 6th, and it was laughable. And the one concern that you clearly had with Josh Jacobs was this is a running back that wasn't going to get really any usage in the receiving game, at least based on what we saw back in 2019, based on what we saw in 2020, based on them giving $11 million guaranteed to Kenyon Drake. But for whatever reason, they do not want to be using Drake at all here. I mean, you get 5 receptions in week 4 for Josh Jacobs. In week 5, he comes out, he gets 5 targets out of this backfield as well. He gets 15 out of the 17 carries in this backfield. He also has a rushing touchdown. That's kind of why you like Jacobs, is because we have seen consistently, if you're looking at the red zone rushes for Josh Jacobs in this offense over the past 2 seasons, that when this team gets to the goal line, 100% of the time, they're essentially just handing the ball off to Josh Jacobs, telling him to go plunge in, go get the score. And if now all of a sudden, this is someone we can expect to get 4 receptions out of the backfield for with every game, I mean, you're not going to see the yards per carry. You're not going to be seeing the yards per reception being that high. But if he is getting receptions, if he is getting touchdowns, is a running back that's extremely valuable, especially if you see a small bounce back from the Las Vegas Raiders compared to where they've been the past 2 weeks. Now, our last running back, we talked about him on our waiver wire running back video, but of course, if you're playing in a league where people know what they're doing, you're not picking them up off the waiver wire. A.J. Dillon. Okay, so here with A.J. Dillon, this is a running back very similar to Josh Jacobs. And I know we're so annoying in saying this, but it's so damn important. We really like Dillon based on his size, based on his athleticism, based on the offense that he was playing in, saying that, I mean, when he's stepping into a Jamal Williams role, if anything happens to Aaron Jones, then all of a sudden, A.J. Dillon then is a premium handcuff running back who possibly becomes a top 12 running back in fantasy. The one problem we had was the fact that, I mean, he wasn't a great pass-catching running back in Boston College, but 4 receptions this past week, 79 total yards, a receiving touchdown to go along with it. Keep in mind, this was a game that Aaron Jones was good to go in. I mean, as soon as Aaron Jones goes down, you would see this workload for A.J. Dillon potentially to go up to 20 carries a game, 4 receptions a game. I mean, that's what's surprising for me here. I thought this was someone that was going to get no utilization in the receiving game at all. So if he's running behind this good offensive line in a very efficient offense and he's able to get used in every area of the game, keep in mind, he was drafted like 10 picks behind Dobbins last year. He's drafted like 15 picks behind Cam Akers. This is a player that went in the same round as DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins. I'm not saying he's as good of them, but I'm saying that there's a significant invested by the Green Bay Packers front office into A.J. Dillon here, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do decide to continue to boost up his usage. Now, thank you. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. Please go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Of course, every time you do, you win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. And make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button. That way you can come out whenever we go live. We go live every single night. I'll be going live tonight, probably around 9 p.m. Eastern. I don't know. That's usually when we go live. And yeah, we live stream for like 3-4 hours answering all your questions every night. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all. Really hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I really hope y'all have a great day.